This episode of the Working Actor NYC may contain profanity and some adult concepts, so please use your discretion. The Working Actor NYC, he's Patrick Richwood.
He's Benjamin House. Did you see how I said that with great gravity? I said that with
That
gravitas.
was very deep.
That's some of my Shakespearean training coming out. Wait, hold on. Let me stuff it back in. my training is showing.
Today we're going to talk about self-tapes.
We
have to do those now. We have to do them a lot. In fact, we do more self-tapes than we do in-person auditions. Is that true for you?
Oh, absolutely. Since COVID, 100%. Only now are self-tapes, I think. I mean, our in-person auditions coming back around. I'd say for the last 6 months they've been coming back around, and it depends on the casting director. You know, some of them like self-tapes. It's sure easier for them, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
If
they don't have
can
to
get
rent
away
a
with it, I think
room.
they do.
But I think
Yeah.
either casting directors or directors or both are starting to say, no, I want to see them. I miss them. You know what I mean?
Well, it is fascinating to me that the number of jobs that I've booked, both theater and for TV, that I have booked just from a self-tape. I have booked jobs and I've never met the people. Isn't that crazy?
Yes, that is, and it's also
For theater, I have booked a job and never met the people.
It's strange. I booked a lead in a play at the George Street Playhouse from one self-tape. I didn't even call back. Although I will say it's affirming in a way, because it's like,
Absolutely.
okay, well, I'm still putting something across. They're getting it, you know.
Right.
I mean, it's also another example of which we've touched on before of how we think auditions are one thing and they're not. It's another thing for them. They'll know. Oh, I want him. If there's any doubt, they'll have you back. Or if they have to have you back because they've got to show you to the producer, they'll have you back. But generally, They know. They just do.
I was astounded when I booked for Classic Stage, off-Broadway show, A Man of No Importance. I booked that understudying Jim Parsons and 3 other actors.
I know, I saw you in
from
it.
a self-tape. From a self-tape, but not even meeting the director. Come to find out, the director, John Doyle, amazing director, really hates understudies. So I think it would have been beneath him to sit in a room just to audition an understudy. I think he was like, let me pass this off to the casting director. If they like them, I'll trust them.
First of all, you dropped this name. Here, do you want it back? Oh, the director,
Jim Parsons?
John Doyle.
John Doyle. Oh, you're more impressed by...
I'm more impressed with John Doyle. But you don't think he hates understudies, do you? Or do you think it's just a status thing? Really?
Genuinely hates understudies.
I have seen understudies who I went, why are they not a Broadway star? This is an extraordinary talent I'm witnessing.
Thanks, Patrick. Thank you. I love that.
Well,
you
I
say
wasn't
these things
in any
about
way
me.
speaking about you. But if I was,
whatever.
I would have been sincere, but I wasn't.
I'm sorry.
No,
Were you saying something? I sort of tuned out for a minute.
Actually, I wanted to see you, not for nothing, but I'm pointing a virtual finger at you because I really wanted to see you when you went on for Jim Parsons and couldn't get a ticky. Couldn't get a ticky. It was sold out.
It's such a small house.
Sold out. I love that theater.
Sold
I
out,
would have
like my
loved
career.
to have seen you. Like you. Yeah.
Like me, sold out.
Sold out.
What I notice about self-tapes, that there's a difference between self-tapes for theater and self-tapes for TV and film. And it's the turnaround.
Oh, yes. That's
TV
the big lesson I have learned.
Seems to have these impossible turnarounds
Yep.
times of like you get an audition in the middle of the afternoon and they want to tape by the afternoon of the next day.
Yeah.
You got literally 24 hours and sometimes less to get a tape together. And so I have a stable of readers, chiefly the aforementioned Patrick Richwood,
Which I love.
because I I don't know who's going to be available, who's going to be in rehearsal, who's got a job or whatever, and I've got a couple hours to get this stuff done. And so I
Yes.
have to have like a group of people that I love and rely upon. And sometimes that I go through that whole list and I still I don't have anybody. So I just start calling like, oh, there was that person I did that show with that
You got to
one
call your
time.
mother-in-law. Yeah, exactly. My friend Danielle, whose mother is not an actress, sometimes she's only got her mom to work. Her mom is literally like, you know, who do you think you are? Anyway? And Danielle's just like,
Great.
just doing the best she can. It's so fucking funny. I'm at the A team for about 7 or 8 people, and they are my A team, and I have my B team ready to go, not because they're less, but just because you gotta
Availability often.
they're less available. But
Yeah.
yeah, and occasionally I get the opportunity to ask someone who's not an actor, but I know they'll be good, and they love it.
yeah.
They're like, "This is so much fun that I'm being part of show business for a second."
So here's a question: do you find that the ability of the person that you are reading with changes the integrity of your audition? Do you find that varies, or are you still able to give a performance that you're happy and proud about?
I do not find that it changes it one bit, not at all. If it,
I agree with that.
I will work with people. I have the right to work with people. I'll say, "Hey, that's great. Why don't we try one faster?" Or sometimes we're doing it on Zoom, so they'll be on my screen, right? You're on my screen with the sides that I've sent you, right? And there's my little iPhone in front of me on a thing with scotch tape glue and a rubber band around a thing dangling from a thing to perfectly. And then I'm standing in front of a sheet that I've stretched across that's taupe colored in front of my north facing windows, which is like studio lighting. So
Yeah.
that's right. I've moved my bed. I've put the thing here. I've put that's on that thing. I can now do it in 12 minutes, but
Yeah.
it used to take something. And sometimes Zoom fucks with your timing. Like if you're wanting to
That is
come
true.
right in on your cue, Zoom won't let you. It'll
There's
still
like a lag and a delay, and yeah.
So I often say to people, now that we know it, just come in on my last word and see if the lag is smaller. It usually doesn't help, but we try. They know that. They know that. And also, when you're reading in person, it's only recently that I've found that every reader I work with is great. But 10 years ago, every reader I worked with was awful. It was just some intern from the casting director. They just used to use their interns at the casting director's office. They didn't use actors.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
not in my case. I didn't. Now they're getting good actors and they're getting people, and they really are good. I mean, I'm always like, thank
Shout
you
out
at the end of it.
shout out to Lisa Birnbaum. I mean,
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
she is an excellent reader.
She sure is.
One thing I'm not mad about with that short, tiny turnaround for TV and film is that often that makes the difference with you getting the job or not. I find that the sooner I get a tape in, the more likely I am to book.
I agree. That's been a lesson hard learned for me. I've had many, many, many months of auditions before I learned that lesson, where I was turning in the audition maybe the day before it was due or the day it was due. They give you a due date. I'm like, I'm taking them at their word. But here's the thing. Once they've seen 10 that they like, that are good, and they can use any one of them, why look for more unless
The
they're
search is over.
obligated
Yeah.
to unless they're obligated to see that one from that agency that they've got
Yeah.
to,
So, in the situation where you have a ton of material in a short turnaround, or not quite enough time, have you ever used a teleprompter app on one of your devices?
No, I would like to get that set up, only my laptop is my only screen for my reader. And so I don't have a desktop that I can do that on. And so, but also
I've had to make a choice between toggling between the teleprompter and having a tiny little, in screen of the reader up in the corner. And unfortunately, it's just one of those situations where it's like a pick your battles sort of thing.
Oh, I could do that. I didn't know you could do that. I could do that because, tell you the truth, for self tapes, I'm not looking at the reader. Generally, they're not in the right eye line for
That very
camera.
much that.
It's a great learning tool to watch other people's auditions when those people are good, because you really do. Not only do you learn or affirm what works, you also can't help but let yourself off the hook. We hold ourselves to such high standards as actors, and we think we really think that, like, we wrecked it if this or that, and it doesn't even affect it. But I just think it's important to remember we have probably the least accurate view of our work, even when we're watching it on. We're the least accurate
Yeah.
in terms of what they're looking for.
I think what I'm looking for when I look back at my takes is, did I accomplish what I set out to achieve? Like, if I've given myself a note of like, oh, one take on this side would be this approach. Another side would be to be more aggressive about the way I feel about this person.
Yeah.
So when I'm watching back the take, what I'm looking for is, did I achieve that? And if I did, then I keep it and then move on to whatever the next take is.
You remind me of a dancer in the sense that a dancer knows how many turns they're going to do before they start the turn. They know they're going to complete 5 turns before they start it. Otherwise, they'll fail. And you're the same way. I want to do 2 takes. I want one to be this way and another to be a different choice. And so you deliver that. That's something I have to develop. I'm not a person who thinks strategically. I forget to think strategically. And so I forget that I should plan to do 2 takes, not because I'm going to, now I'm going to talk like this, but because
Thank you, Martin Short.
for the first one, I'm going to talk like this. And for the next one, I'm going to talk like this. Same material. But I'm going to do just with puppets. But I do think that it's wise to go, I plan on doing 2 takes. Why? Because then you're giving the director a valuable tool. You're showing them you're not set in stone. You can do choices and you can make a difference, because they're not there to give you an adjustment. Most directors just want to give you an adjustment, not because you did it wrong, but to see if you can take an adjustment.
Just to see if you can take an adjustment. How many takes do you send? Does it vary?
I never send more than 2. I often will only send 1. It just depends. I think it's a good idea to send 2, but sometimes they'll say,
I agree.
They'll say, put it all in one. They'll say, put it all in one long. That's the other thing about self-tapes. Here's the thing that blows my mind about self-tapes as opposed to in-person auditions. Each casting director has their own set of criteria for how they want it done. Some will be like, please make sure A, B, C, D, E, F, G, the slate, the format, the this, the that, no noise in the background. Please make sure it's this, it's that. Because they feel they have to coach the actors to be professional, because God knows, I'm sure people send.
They must get some tapes. I'm sure. Yeah, they must get some tapes.
They must get some tapes against a white wall with a fluorescent light in the bathroom. I know that actors are we're all different breeds of people, just like people. But then sometimes they'll say, attach the slate. Don't attach the slate. Put the slate. Make them all separate clips.
Separate
make them all one clip.
Or all one file. Yeah.
Title the files this way. Title the files that way. Make sure it's this, make sure it's that. It's really quite something. And you really have to, if you don't read those instructions through twice, it's really
so true.
Annoying for them.
I think self-tapes have actually really, in a way, opened up the process for a lot of people in terms of ease. It does sometimes feel
more practical for them.
Yeah, it's more practical. And although sometimes it feels from our point of view that you might be shouting into the void because your stuff isn't getting seen because you sent it too late, that's
because you sent it too late, or because it's in a vacuum. Now, it should be mentioned though, we work in an odd vacuum anyway, because even when we go into the room and they say thank you, I don't ever hear how I did in the audition unless I ask. Even when I got the job, how did I do in that audition? When did you choose me? I don't ask that stuff. How many times have you been told how you did in an audition.
Only when I have specifically asked. If it's an audition where I know I nailed that shit to the floor, and a week later I haven't heard, I have said to my agent, "Hey, would you mind calling up and find out where they are with the casting?" And the few, I don't do it anymore because I don't know, maybe I care less. I don't know. But the few times that I did it earlier in my career, inevitably the response was, "Benjamin did great. They're just going in a different direction."
Yeah. And not only that, not only is that going to be the response, but I would go a step further and say, and I hope I don't sound jaded, even if it sucked, what are they going to say? It sucked. They're going to say, it was great. We're just going in a different
Yeah,
direction.
yeah,
Now, I'm not
yeah.
saying that to make you paranoid because you're
Oh,
great and I
right.
already know
No, no,
that.
no.
I've
It's
seen
okay.
you work.
I understand. No, no, no. I hear you, Patrick. I can hear what you're saying to me. It's all right. It's fine.
Fuck with Benjamin. Fuck with
I've
Benjamin.
been
Fuck with
rejected by
Benjamin. Fuck with
worse people
Benjamin.
than
Fuck
you.
with Benjamin. Fuck with Benjamin. No, I think also though that it's not that you care less, which is why you ask less times. I think it's because you actually know more about
I
your
think that's
work and where it sits in you. And so you know when you've given good work and it does not matter. It's
It
the
doesn't
same.
matter. The casting relies on other criteria that have nothing to do with me.
They're buying the shirt. You're the shirt. They don't, if you're not the shirt for them, put it on the rack back where that's it.
So I have a question for you. Have you ever had that feeling with that horrifying turnaround that you're like, oh, fuck it, this is just B plus work out the door, but it's out the door. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to keep hammering and hammering and hammering away at this until I get the perfect take. This is fine. This is good enough. I'm going to send it.
Yes, but mostly what causes me to say that is I actually channel you. Because whenever I've worked with you on a self tape, you're like, no, I think I got it. That's fine. You don't you don't hang your entire life on it. You go, this is one audition in a million auditions. It's a self tape. We will do several takes, you and I, if you're not hitting what you think you want to hit. But once you sort of hit what you think you want to hit, you're like, yeah, that works for me. And you're very, very kind of easygoing about it, and I like that, and that's one of you and a few other people in my life. I go be Benjamin or be Jan or whatever. Just be get
Oh,
on
God,
with it.
don't be Benjamin. You'll be so much better at it than I am.
No, because I can't do the I can't do the accent.
Can't do the accent.
Imagine. I can do
The accent?
I can't do the accent. It's like Lena Lamont, and I can't stand him. Can't stand him. I can't stand him.
If you could take a photo of every actor's self-tape setup, it would look like a Jenga puzzle. I mean, we're all balancing the computer over here and the phone over there, and
I would say don't overdo it with the way you look. Try and look like you and suggest the character. I would say props are really, really, really dicey, and that okay, they want you smoking a cigarette. Go ahead and smoke a cigarette if you have a cigarette. Don't worry about it though. It's just not essential that you do that kind of stuff on camera. It's just the same as in person. You're not going to go in there and smoke a cigarette. It's like the famous line about Barbara Stanwyck. She was pretty old in her career, and she was this legend, and she was doing a stint on a soap opera for fun. And they were rehearsing, and they said, "Where's her purse?" And the prop girl came up devastated. "I'm so sorry, Miss Stanwyck. I'm so sorry. We don't have your purse ready yet." And Barbara Stanwyck said, "Honey, relax. I'm a woman. When you give me a purse, I'll know what to do with it." I have friends who are actors who they prefer to have a prop in their hand. They prefer to do that. Great. Whatever gets you in the groove that you can best deliver your work. But I just
that's
don't
the good
think
point.
it's
That is like whatever helps you give the performance you want. If it takes your mind off of, oh, I have to mime malleting this thing into the ground,
yeah.
then hold a mallet. We don't.
Then
It's
hold a
okay.
fucking mallet. Who cares?
Whatever
Okay.
helps you.
Yeah.
Don't
But
think
I guess
they're
what I'm
sitting.
saying.
Don't think they're sitting on the other side of the camera thinking, "Oh my God, why isn't he holding a mallet?
What's going to
What
happen
is
when we
this?
put a
I don't know what
mallet
that
in his
is.
hand?
What's he
Oh,
supposed to be
no.
doing? I don't get it." A piece of advice that I heard from Susan Blackwell, who I know I've talked about before because she is
The great
kind
Susan
of
Blackwell.
she's a legendary actor, and I have used her for self tapes, and her coaching through those tapes has been incomparable. I mean, but I remember her talking about a technique that she used to use before self-tapes, when we used to have to go to someone's office to do, to be taped by the casting director for TV and TV and film. And she used to put herself in this fantastic mindset of, I am going to imagine that when I walk into that room and the casting people are standing in front of me with a camera, I am going to imagine that the wall behind them flies out and I am on the set and the crew is there and my other actor is there and I am ready to shoot the scene. I am already shooting the scene in the audition. And it's a great technique to use for self-tape as well, that this imaginary wall flies out and you're on the location and the crew is all there and everybody's ready to capture your performance. It's so helpful because
that's delicious.
The other thing I learned about self-tapes, and this is not by any means a prescriptive recommendation, but just remember, this is in the same way that when you go to an in-person audition, for 15 minutes, that role is yours. Like when you're in the room, the same thing applies in a self-tape. Yes, there are conditions that casting director wants you to use for how you label the file and how you do your slate and all the rest of it. But do remember that this is your audition.
Yes, it's all a frame for your, yep.
I remember seeing the self-tape of an Australian actor who booked a role in Stranger Things, and he did all of this weird, crazy stuff to music before he did the take and whatever, and he included it in the self-tape, and it was weird, and it fit the character in a way. You would never recommend to people, do something weird so that they remember you. I mean, he was perfect for the role in so many ways, and just remember, it's your tape. It's your opportunity. So don't try and don't waste your time. Don't waste your time struggling with, did I get it right? Do it your way and it will be perfect.
In a room, you're letting them know you can fill a room with your energy. On camera, all you have to do is think the thought of the person in the story. The camera records it. More than that, and you're dancing on thin ice, because if you're auditioning for a film or television role, more than that, and it's a hat on a hat.
This has been another episode of the Working Actor NYC.
That's you're supposed to do stuff for, like put the like button, and you're supposed to do
this
the
is where
other
you push the button and you hit the button and you push the button, hit the button, like and subscribe. Yeah.
You have to do that. You got to do that. It's important. It's important because we want to grow, right? Let's see how fast we can grow our audience.
We want to hear from you.
We do want to hear from you.
Should we talk? We do want to hear from you. What should we talk about? You can find us at the Working Actor NYC on Instagram. Send us a little DM and tell us what we should be talking about.
Yeah, actually ask us, or even ask us questions, because we'll answer pretty much anything, won't we, Benjamin?
I'll answer anything.
We don't really have any boundaries. I don't think.
Next week, tune in for Patrick's take on nude scenes.
Clothing optional theater. It's my big concept. I've been pushing it for years. Nobody's buying it. I've been pitching and pitching.